everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net and scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are taking another journey into the world of the strange and unusual, unknown, and actually fearful in a lot of cases. But don't worry, we'll keep you safe right here in the vehicle. I am joined today by a wonderful guest. He's been here before, but he came back after several months, and he's got more to share. And I'm talking about Tony from Utah, who's here to share several pretty incredible events that he's been experiencing. So we're going to dive into that now, folks. Buckle up. We're going in. Hey, Tony, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thank you, Brett. Appreciate your time and appreciate your willingness to have me back.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm always very honored when people want to come on and share their experiences and because I think it's a really cool maybe an example of like trust, that you trust my show, and that means the world to me. But I know you've been here before, so I won't have to do my canned question like, where did this start for you? Because we kind of covered that already, but where are we going today?
So today I'm just going to take us back to my high school days when I was into some more of the theatrical side of things. I kind of got into the theater kind of group back in my late junior year, and it carried over into my senior year. But we'll start there, and we'll just kind of move along and just kind of progress as things progress.
All right, brother, well, take us away.
All right. So as I mentioned, I started getting interested in theater, and so I got kind of, I don't know if it was taken in or just kind of pulled in or just sort of, I would say maybe it was more like kind of like embraced. I think I was more embraced by the theater crowd, and while I was hanging out with the theater crowd, I ended up kind of going a little bit towards the darker side of things, and then I ended up becoming a part of the goth crowd, which is kind of which is interesting. Sure. Now, what was interesting about that is that I was a 90s goth. Kind of dates me a little bit. Probably dates me a lot. Anyhow, so being a 90s goth, they were really big into like the black clothes and the makeup and all of that stuff. And so what I would do is during the day, I'd have one of my friends do all my makeup and everything. And then I just go around school kind of parading around and doing my thing. Well, my younger sister at the time would see me doing that, and she'd get all mad, and she'd run home and tell my mom and dad about all the things I was doing at school and how awful I was being and all of that. And by the time I got home, I'd washed everything off, and then it kind of looked like to her that, or to my parents at least, that she was just like making up stories. And so, oops. I mean, that's kind of how it went. So, I mean, I got involved with the goth crowd and had a lot of fun with my friends. And I went to a couple parties, and I just got along well with that crowd. I associated with them, and I thought I was being different. But as I looked back, I wasn't that much different, because different is doing something totally opposite of what everybody else is doing. But if you have like a crowd of people doing the same thing, that's not necessarily different.
Sure.
So did all the goth things and went to some goth parties. Well, one night, I can't remember when, but I was invited to a goth party, and we went over and we were hanging out with some friends, and we were just kind of chit-chatting and talking and playing games and doing stuff that you would do at a party. And there were things going on there that may or may not be legal for my age group at the time, but we'll push those aside for now at least, and
Okay.
just kind of focus on the rest of the story.
Sure.
Anyhow, so while I'm there at the party, some girls come over to me and we start chit-chatting, and then they said, "Oh yeah, we got out a Ouija board." And I'm like, "Oh, really? A Ouija board?" I said, "No one ever told me about this."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, it's going to be fun. We're going to do this thing, and we're going to just like we're just going to use the Ouija board." And I know I've heard all about your takes and viewpoints on Ouija boards.
Sure.
Sometimes they can be nothing at all, and sometimes they can have some very, very negative consequences.
Yeah.
However, with my story, there were some pretty negative consequences. Gotcha. So they were playing around with the Ouija board, and after a while, they got bored with it because nothing was happening. Because they wanted something to happen, and so one of my friends piped up and says, "Hey, have you guys heard of something called table bumping? Do you know what that is? Do you know how that works?"
What did you call it? Table what?
Table bumping.
Table bumping. No, I've heard of levitating and table tipping. I haven't heard of bumping though. What is that?
So it's kind of similar to that, but what they do is they call up a spirit, and then they force it into an inanimate object, and then have that inanimate object like rise off the ground, like a lamp or a table or a pen or something. Okay. And so they decided to use a lamp, and so and no one was wanting to even touch the Ouija board, but the host decided that he would. Oh. And so the host goes over and takes control of the Ouija board and calls up a spirit and says, "Okay, I want you to go over into that lamp," and the lamp just starts floating off at the table. And it was cool. It floated off about a couple inches off the table, and everyone thought it was so cool. But then the problem came in when the host just started gasping for air, fell over on his back, and he started convulsing almost like he was having a seizure. Uh-oh. And I'm pretty sure that something had happened. That the ghost or the evil spirit or whatever was in that got tired of possessing the lamp and just possessed him. And it was just a mess. It was just an absolute mess. People were crying. It was a mess. And then finally, one of the people at the party decided they would call their dad, who happened to be part of our religious clergy and called them in. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm skedaddling out of here. I'm gonna bounce because I don't want to be here. I don't want to know what happened." Right. But it was just not the most pleasant or most fun experiences, but it was pretty scary. I'll have to admit that. One of my more scary experiences that I unfortunately experienced.
Yeah, that's the problem with Ouija boards. You just never know what you're talking to, and you don't have any idea what it wants or what's going on. So, yeah, I always caution against them. I'm not saying that they can't be safely used, but I just think you really got to know what you're doing because you're leaping into really murky waters.
I agree. I agree completely. And then the next day, I believe I heard from one of my friends, and I guess he had to they had to do something so that they could get him unpossessed and just
some cleansing. Yeah.
It was a cleansing or something, but they it was a mess. And because of that experience, I really don't do much with Ouija boards, and I just kind of steer clear because
Yeah. I'd
rather play it safe.
Yeah, it's better to err on the side of caution, I think. But yeah.
Good choice. Definitely. And so, kind of something cool that my dad did is that my dad never really gave me a curfew. My dad said, "Hey, if there's ever a problem, if you ever need help, just give me a phone call, and I'll pick you up." And so I would carry around a pocket of of quarters, and I go over to the nearest phone booth. Also, again, kind of aging me and kind of showing people my age. But anyhow, I went over to my dad and I called my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, can you meet me over here? I got to get home." And then he'd pick me up, no questions asked.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, I was really, really, I was really glad to get out of that situation.
Yeah, understandably.
So, yeah. So moving along to my next story that I'd like to share is that about 3 years ago today, actually, I started a new job.
Oh, congratulations.
And, and the building itself was built back in the mid-50s, late 50s. And so it's relatively old-ish, I guess. But I mean, it's pretty old. And so a lot of my coworkers had told me stories about, people have died here and whatnot. And so occasionally when I'll go into the restroom, as you do, and I'm washing my hands, the sink will turn on all by itself.
Oh, okay.
And then when it first happened, I thought, wait a minute, is this just a fluke? And then when I went back in several other times, different sinks would turn on.
Now,
so I just thought, go ahead.
Just a sec. Is this the kind of sink that has the sensors?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those sinks with the sensors. And so it would just turn on. It would stay on for about 10, 15 seconds and then turn off.
Oh, wow. That's interesting because you're saying it happened to various sinks. It wasn't just one sink with maybe a bad sensor. It was moving.
Yeah. I thought that was really, really interesting just because if it's just one sink, like you were saying, it could just be, you could just chalk it up to a bad sensor or faulty equipment or whatever. But multiple sinks, that was just kind of odd to me.
Yeah. And in and of itself, it's not necessarily conclusive, but at least it's very curious, right?
Yeah. It does pique your curiosity and make you say things that make you go,
Yeah.
Again, referencing my age.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to reference my age all throughout the interview.
That's okay. We're not teenagers anymore, so we're
unfortunately no, or fortunately no. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
right. So that was the beginning of events that happened at work, or were there more?
No,
okay.
That was the only really event that happened at work, but I figured it was worth noting.
Yeah.
Because
the other question I have is, did you feel like there was a presence there, or was this just kind of, well, that's bizarre, or did you get the vibe like, I don't think I'm alone? Where were you at with that?
So I got the feeling that there was someone in there with me, but I couldn't tell who because I couldn't see them.
Well, sure. Yeah. But you could see that the sinks were turning on various different sinks.
The sink turned on. And the first time I'm like, okay, that's odd. But then when I went in on several other occasions, on different occasions, mind you, that they just started turning on all by themselves.
Yeah. Well, there's this.
And I wouldn't necessarily see it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Please go ahead.
But I didn't necessarily see it turn on because I was washing my hands like you do. But I turn over and there it was, just turned on, just running for about 10, 15 seconds or so. And then it turns off.
Wow. There was a video that I saw, and I actually shared it. I can't take any credit for it, but it's this lady using the facilities, and she's sitting on the throne doing her thing, and she's doing like an Instagram or something, or a TikTok, and she's like, I'm just sitting here, and weird, the hand dryer just popped on by itself, and it's a sensor thing, of course. And so she's sitting there recording herself, and then she's like, then she pans over and shows the hair dryer or the hand dryer, and then she pans back to herself and says, or no, she's still panning on the hand dryer, and she's like, if there's something here with me, turn it on again. It came on cue, and she's like, and she's it was just the synchronicity of her making that request. If something's here, turn it on. And it was like right now. Now, that's, coincidence is one thing, but On command? Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
It is. Yeah, it really is. But I honestly, Tony, I think we're probably surrounded by spirits all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're maybe, and the phrase I've used is that we're swimming in an ocean of spirits. Maybe it's just that we don't have the facilities to see and experience them actively like we can birds, squirrels, everything else around us. But I think they're there. I don't know. That's my take.
Now, my take is, and I'm going to wax a little bit religious, but not too religious.
Sure.
But with what I believe is that the spirit world is with us, surrounding us. So when people die or when people move on to that next phase, whatever that might be, that the spirit world is kind of maybe, well, not kind of maybe, but more the spirit world is part of our world. Yes, like you said, but we can't see it. So
right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's probably the way it is. But I can't quantify that. It's just a belief. So, all right.
No.
But that's a pretty cool experience, even though maybe skeptics would go, that's this or that, or any mechanical reasons.
Yeah.
And not that they couldn't be right, but they could be right, but it could also be something intelligent doing that to let you know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you can discount either of those possibilities, but it's interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's worth investigating more, but I don't necessarily have the time nor the willingness to investigate it, or even talk to the janitorial staff and like say, hey, what do you think about this?
Sure. Yeah. Interesting take. Very cool story, though. I appreciate you sharing that. So where are we going next?
All right. Next, I'm going to talk about my friend Amanda, but I've changed her name just because I really don't think that she would want her name used.
Fair enough.
Anyhow, so my friend Amanda, I met her back when I was a junior in high school, and we became really, 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 really good friends. She was the kind of friend that you could just rely on no matter what. I actually felt like at one point we could get married, and kind of one of those friends, and kind of one of those friends that was almost like a sister, but could have been more. And so we just became really good friends, and we hung out a lot. We in Utah, we call skipping school sloughing. I don't know if you've heard that adage.
I have not, but I certainly know what it means. Yeah.
But yeah. So when we skipped school, we call it sloughing, and I'm sure I'm admitting this to anybody who knows who I am or who can pick out who I am from this episode that I was anyhow. Yeah. So quite often we would slough school or skip it, and we'd go to the local park just right up the street, so that way we wouldn't get in trouble and get called out for truancy or whatever. And sometimes we'd go across the street. There was a bowling alley across the street at the time, and sometimes we'd get breakfast and go bowling, and just get together and hang out. And we'd plan to do parties and go up to the local dam, which is just right up the street about 5-10 miles away, and like have parties at the dam and stuff, and just a lot of just a lot of good friend like things. And just she was an excellent friend and just a really, really, really good person. I mentioned that I spent some time in the last episode over in the Netherlands, and while I was there, she wrote me like every couple of weeks. It took about a couple of weeks to get the letters back and forth.
Sure.
Also dating me a little bit because letters.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really much internet access at that time. But yeah, we would write letters back and forth. And when I got back home from the Netherlands, we'd call and talk to each other every day. Well, not every day, but like pretty much once a week. And that friendship bond just kept getting stronger and stronger, and we just kept kind of becoming closer and closer as friends. And finally, we were able to kind of coordinate a trip with another friend up to where she was living in New York.
Oh, okay.
And it was just a nice change of scenery because I'd never traveled that far on a plane before, and B, she lived in upstate New York, and it was beautiful country up there if you've ever had a chance to go up that way, but
Oh, nice.
or go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful country.
I haven't, but I know plenty of people up in that area, and it's apparently gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just vast green. It's green, very, very green. At least during the time that we were up there. And so we got a chance to kind of hang out, and and at the time we were hanging out, and I kind of said, hey, I kind of like you a little bit more than a friend. And she's like, well, I kind of like you too, but I see you more as a brother. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so I figured, hey, we'll just kind of let things go and kind of let things progress as things do.
Mm-hmm.
And so soon our trip was over, and we decided, hey, we'll come back, and we continued talking and just communicating as you do. And I kept up with my phone calls, and I also kept up with the letters, and I'd write her letters here and there, and just maintaining that friendship, because we had that really, really close bond, that really, really close friendship. And then it was around Christmas that year that I wanted to call her, of course, because it was the holidays, and wanted to get in contact with her and just wish her Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and see how things were going. And so I call, and I get her dad on the phone. And usually she answers the phone. She's usually the first person to answer the phone, and her dad's on the phone. And I thought that was kind of odd.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you picking up the phone? And he's like, he's like, Tony, is your friend around? And I'm like, no, but I can call him. I can give him a call and say, hey, and kind of give him an update. And he's like, well, are you sitting down? And I'm like, okay. And so I got more comfortable, and he's like, well, a couple days ago, Amanda and her sister were driving, and it was kind of snowing, and they made a left turn, and there was a truck coming, and didn't see them when they were making the left turn, and just broadsided them, and killed. Unfortunately, it killed Amanda, and then her sister survived.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and here I was, this young. Yeah, I was a kid. I was a kid. Here I was, this young kid, and I had never, at that point, experienced such grief and loss at that time that was that personal to me.
Yeah.
And I was just struggling. I was struggling for days. Like, I was going to the local university at the time, and my grades started slipping, and it was just a really, really rough time. And just, it was just really, really hard. And then finally one night I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I'm really, really sad. This has really, really gotten me down. I really, really I felt helpless.
Yeah.
And a little bit hopeless.
Right.
And then finally I finally got to bed really, really late that night. And then the next night, I was laying in bed, and it was relatively late. And I was just laying there, and then suddenly the temperature changed. It was it was a lot cooler, and it was during the winter. Anyhow, it was just a lot cooler.
Okay.
And it was about springtime because her accident was in the wintertime. And so the temperature got really cooler, and I felt this cold. It was a hand. I could tell it was a hand on on my forehead, and then I got a little kiss on the cheek.
Oh.
And that was enough to reassure me that, hey, I'm going to be okay, and that you don't need to worry about me, and that it's okay to move on. It's okay to kind of just make just make your way and do what you got to do.
Oh.
And so that was just really, really, really comforting for me. And I actually draw upon that every now and again, because every now and again I'll think about her, and then I realize, you know what, she's okay.
Yeah.
She's all right.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad that you had that experience, and I wish everybody that was grieving could have an experience like that. It's such an amazing, beautiful thing just to know. I think because that's the thing about death is there's so much unknown, and of course you know that these people that you love and care about are gone, but are they okay? And to have that reassurance, I think is so powerful and so healing. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still. I mean, I'm not as broken up as I was when it happened, because of course, time does eventually heal wounds. It doesn't heal wounds all at once, and I don't necessarily feel like it heals all wounds, but you learn different ways to deal with it, and you learn different ways to kind of heal in your own way. Versus, and time does help.
Yeah, I've always thought, well, time doesn't necessarily heal all wounds, but it teaches you to live with the scars, maybe.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. And then I'd like to kind of shift gears again and move on to my sister. And this is the sister who I mentioned earlier, who would see me in the goth makeup and then run home and tell mom and dad. And then I'd come home with my face clean as a whistle, and nothing was wrong. And it kind of made her look like to my parents that she was making up stories, which she wasn't, but
yeah. Gotcha.
So, it's the dynamic, I guess.
Yeah.
So wonderful sister. I love my sister. She great woman. So we were both born in Arizona, just to kind of give a little bit of history, and then we moved over to Minnesota for a good 6-8 years while my dad was going to school for his job. And so I mean, we had your basic brother-sister relationship. I mean, we'd squabble from here and there. I mean, I don't think that any brother-sister relationship is gonna be faultless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always gonna be those problems here and there, and there's always gonna be that competition. And I think we were a little on the competitive side, but I mean, we're brother and sister, and so I mean, it's kind of how things turned out and how things worked. And so that's kind of how we were as brother and sister. And then as we moved along in the course of our relationship, we ended up then about it was about 6-8 years, and then we moved to Utah, and that's where we've lived ever since. And of course we kept doing the brother sister thing, and we we had our own little groups and our own little things, and we had our own little things that we did, and so I went on and I did. I went on and I did all my work with nursing homes and all of that. And I know I mentioned that in the previous episode.
Yep.
But she went off and she kind of did her own thing, and she ended up becoming a lawyer, which was really really cool. And she actually focused a lot on immigration and immigration law.
Okay.
And so she just got really really involved with that. Um, she would, as a lawyer, she went to this place called Dilley, Texas, and she would do a pro bono law where she would go to the people who are being held in the detention centers,
mm-hmm.
and then help them out to help them get out, because a lot of the people over in the detention centers don't have those advocates, don't have those people who will stand up for them and say, hey,
mm-hmm.
I need help. And because she spoke Spanish, because she spoke very, very fluent Spanish, that she was able to help them out. And so she was a great advocate and great help, and just really, really kind-hearted soul, really, really just down-to-earth person, just really great. And then she ended up getting married, and then they adopted 4 kids because they didn't want to split them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, they kind of had their little family, and her husband was a doctor, and her husband had gone to school and he was a doctor. And just, great family, love the family, love the kids, nieces and nephews, and all of that. And so, just a really, really great person. I think I just wanted to get that across, that she was a really good person, and
sure,
she was out to make some very significant changes in the world. And so they were living. They weren't living. Okay, so they were in Chicago, and then they moved here to Utah, and they were living in Utah, and they had just barely built a house, and then while she was living here in Utah, one of her previous jobs where she had been working at actually opened up a firm here in Salt Lake, and they offered her to be a partner. And so she was a partner for quite some time, for about 8 months, 9 months. And then her husband was scheduled to go to Hawaii for a medical conference. And then she decided she was going to meet up with them. And they kind of make it a little getaway for them, just kind of a little something away from the kids, just to give themselves some time away.
Sure.
And so they were enjoying Hawaii, having a really good time in Hawaii. And it was on her husband's birthday. They were out and about, and they were driving around on this road on the Hawaiian island. It was actually the island of Hawaii. And they were driving around, and they took a turn, and the other car crossed the lines and smacked them head on.
Oh no.
And unfortunately and sadly, they died instantly.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm so sorry.
That just knocked me down flat.
Yeah.
That just totally, sorry. That just totally just, I mean, losing a friend is one thing. I mean, but there's a different level of grief when you lose a sister, or you lose a family member, or you lose people who you've grown up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, I still, to this day, and this happened 3 years ago, to this day, I still, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm not going to say it's not easy, but it's hard.
Right.
And it still is hard from time to time. Like sometimes I'll turn on the radio and there's a song
Yeah.
that we used to listen to, and I'll have to pull over onto the side of the road and just,
Let it out.
I
Yeah.
can't do this. I need some time just to
Yeah.
kind of reconfigure and then resituate myself.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was during this time that I had just barely switched jobs, and I was working at my new job, just kind of getting the feel for things. And keep in mind, this is also during the winter time. We're in the dead of winter, and I'm just sitting there, and I feel someone come up behind me, and I hear someone say, "Good job, Tony." And then, as quick as I hear it, I feel like a, I feel like it was almost like a gust of wind or like a brush of wind, and then it was gone.
Oh, wow.
And I know for myself that was her just kind of checking in and just kind of coming over to me and saying, "Hey, I'm gone. I'm going to be okay, but I just want to give you that reassurance. I want to give you that assurity or
Oh,
that assurance
right.
that you're that I'm going to be all right and I'm watching out for you."
Oh, cool. Yeah, those are again such powerful moments, but it's exceptionally cool that you had two of them for two
Yeah.
of the biggest heartbreaks of your life. So I mean, those are beautiful moments of reassurance, right?
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah. It it does help. I mean, I think that if I didn't have those moments of reassurance, that maybe I would be okay where I am now, but they really do help. They really
yeah,
do help getting those.
absolutely,
And and I mean, I know that a lot of people don't get that. So I kind of feel kind of lucky in the sense to
absolutely.
be able to have those opportunities.
And even the music, there's many people that believe that that's another form of our loved ones communicating with us to bring up, a song that had some resonant meaning and just maybe that's a message too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. One of our favorite songs that we like to sing around Christmas time was "Careless Whisper" by
George Michael.
um, by George Michael. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was one of our favorite songs. And so we'd sing it and we'd make fun of it, and it was kind of like our thing at Christmas time.
Oh, cute. Yeah. That's wonderful. And I'm sorry for all the loss that you've experienced. Certainly that's a lot to bear. But thank God that you had those experiences so you know that they're still with you and they're still a part of your world. It's just changed.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like I can feel them. Sometimes it feels like that I can feel their presence or I can feel
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I think about them, I'm like, hey, I wonder how they're doing. And then and then I just have to stop and pause for a minute, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, they're okay. I just need to
Oh,
keep going on with my life,
yes.
and and hopefully maybe when it comes my time, I'll get a chance to see them again, or maybe I won't. We'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens when
Yep.
things happen, you know?
Yep. Yep. We'll all find out eventually. You're absolutely right about that. Very cool, though. But
Yeah, death and taxes, right?
yeah, I guess so. So some things are just unavoidable, and I'm sure that's one of them. So,
Yeah, well, yeah.
but
Anywho, so I want to shift gears and focus on some miracles that
yeah,
I feel are
please,
miracles I've experienced.
please, yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of a medical history. When I was 14 years old, I was diagnosed with hypercholesterolemia, also known as familial high cholesterol,
Okay.
and it was really, really high. It was really, really high. Now this has been an ongoing thing in my family for years. Um, it comes from my mom's side, and I think it was from her dad's genetics.
Okay.
But anyhow, her dad had an aortic aneurysm in the mid '80s from related to high cholesterol. He started not feeling well, and he ended up over in surgery. And while he was in surgery, he had an aortic aneurysm. If you know what that is.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. And then just so we have this big, huge to do with familial high cholesterol. And so that's kind of when I started, about 13, 14 was when I started my high cholesterol journey. And it started out at about 450, which is really, really high, extremely high. That's 4 times the risk of heart attack and stroke.
Okay.
Plus 50. So yeah, my doctors always told me that I was a ticking time bomb at that point. And so it's always been a struggle, just trying to keep that maintained. Diet helped a little bit, exercise helped some, but I wasn't getting the results that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kept going on through this and just kept going through this and just kept working on this and just kept, it was just an ongoing struggle. I mean, I went to several doctors. I went to several clinics where they said, "Hey, let's have you do a journal and list the things that you're eating." I had one doctor say, "Well, you know what? There's really nothing we can do. You're just going to die." And I'm like, "Well, thanks." And
yeah, that's not good advice.
and I'm like, "Okay, your bedside manner is not that great, so we're just going to push you aside and focus on someone else." I had one doctor tell me that I would automatically biologically produce 300 plus cholesterol if I just ate salad every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a bad thing.
Yeah. And so finally, once I got all my doctor situation settled down, and I was able to get on some pretty decent medications to kind of help control everything. There was this new drug that just barely come out, or it was pretty new. It was a couple of years old, and it was called Repatha. Have you heard of that?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So it's a very, very aggressive medication that's used for people in my situation and my condition. And so when the doctor heard about this, he was just jumping for joy and almost doing cartwheels, because it's like, "Hey, this is something that's going to keep you alive. We're gonna do what we can to keep you alive," because of course that's what a doctor wants to do, and so, or what they should do. And then as we kept petitioning the insurance, and the insurances were not that agreeable, they finally came back and said, "Okay,
oh good,
you've been bugging us for months about this drug. We need it prescribed by a cardiologist." And so we're like, okay. So he gets me into a cardiologist, and the cardiologist says, "Hey, you know what? Your numbers are really, really high. But I want to get a better picture." And so he takes me, and so he schedules a couple appointments. One was to take pictures of my heart. And when the results came back, they found the 3 blocked arteries.
Oh, wow.
And so he's like, "Oh, golly, we need to get you in. We need to get this further investigated." And so a month later, he got me in, and they went in and they kind of rooted around in my veins, into my heart, and saw that it was much worse than they anticipated. Oof. And so 2 days later, I went in for bypass surgery.
Okay.
And so while I was in there, and so I got all set up and they did the surgery, but while they were in there, they found a 4th artery that was really, really bad off. And so it ended up being quadruple bypass versus triple bypass.
Oh, man.
And so I feel really lucky, and I feel really blessed that they were able to catch everything prior to anything happening. Now, in Utah, we have this weather pattern where, like, every 4 or 5 years, you get a lot of snow. And that year was one of those years when you got a lot of snow. And had I done nothing, had I just said, "Oh," I'm not going to listen to the doctor. I just don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone out and probably had a heart attack because one of the arteries they found was 98% occluded.
That's a lot.
It's called the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
So,
Oof.
so, and that's why I've always said miracles are in the timing.
Mm-hmm.
Miracles are always in the timing. And when you have a miracle like that, you don't know you don't know what it might well you know it's going to prevent, but you don't know what the intention was.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep. It's just that everything happened as it needed to happen for you to be okay, and that's powerful. Absolutely. A lot of people think, well, miracles are when, something appears and, like a broken arm is instantly healed and that kind of stuff. And certainly those would be miraculous events as well, but still, miracles can be some of the more gentler things, like the impeccable timing and then finding exactly what they needed to find, the development of these medications so that you look deeper. And yeah, I mean, you're right. That can certainly be miraculous as well.
Yeah. And since I've been on the Repatha for 5-6 years now.
Uh-huh.
It's been a lifesaver. It's
good.
dropped my cholesterol levels to what they should have been years and years and years ago.
Oh, good. Okay. Fantastic.
I mean, it's a slight inconvenience, but I'd rather be inconvenienced than dead.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So what was the other one then?
And then my last one, and I'll end it on that, was it happened about, it was the end of June of last year, so this is a little bit more recent, that I got a sore on my leg, and my doctor started treating it as cellulitis, if you know what cellulitis is.
No, I don't.
So cellulitis is when there's a lot of fluid and swelling in your leg.
Oh.
So your heart is not pumping well enough, and so sometimes the fluid and all of that gets into your leg, and so they have different remedies for that, and so we tried treating it as cellulitis, and we treated it on several occasions for cellulitis, but it turned out not to be cellulitis. He sent me over to a vein doctor, and the vein doctor diagnosed me with something called a leaky vein, which is a form of varicose vein.
Oh, okay.
And it's not the kind that you strip. It's the kind that's internal, and you have to go in there and fix.
Oh.
And so the doctor at the time was going to do both legs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was all set to do that. And then I ended up changing insurances, as you do as an adult, because adulting. And it kind of got pushed off until this year. And so when I went to the new doctor, and they got me all set up with all their processes, they did some things differently that the other doctor didn't do. And while I was doing that, he said, "Oh yeah, we could do the other leg, but if we did the other leg, we'd probably end up amputating it because it doesn't need it as much as the one leg did."
Oh.
And so I really thought that was interesting that I had gone and gotten a second opinion.
Wow.
Because I could just be one leg Tony now instead of not,
Call him a pirate.
Yarr.
You landlubbers. Yeah, well, I'm glad you did, man.
Yeah, and I mean, now I'm kind of in the healing process and going through that. Been about 3 months since I had the surgery, but I'm glad I was able to get it done, and I'm glad I got that second opinion, because had I gone through that first doctor, I might not be as ambulatory as I would like to be.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that you're bringing the definition of miracle to these kind of things, because I think oftentimes we overlook them, but they do. To me, a miracle is divine intervention. Like some divine force is intervening and bringing you to a better place. Like those are miraculous to me as well. Again, I think people have a real Hollywood idea of what miracle means. But I think those events that you've explained are equally as miraculous, because they brought you to a good place and brought you to a place of healing and betterment by this outside force, So something brought you to these events because you were meant to be there to help you. And that is miraculous for sure.
Yes. Someone or something out there wants me to be around. So I'm going to take it.
Good for you. Good for you, brother. And I'm so glad you came back on, especially because, it's always good to hear what else has been going on for people. And oftentimes I don't get the benefit of being able to do that. So thank you for coming back on, brother.
Well, appreciate your time. It's great to be back here, and I appreciate you. It's a good show. I like it.
Oh, well, thank you, man. And if anything else comes up, let me know. You can always come back.
I might. We'll just have to see.
All right, Tony. Thanks again for coming on. It's great to see you, brother.
All right. Well, appreciate your time, Brent. Have a good day.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. And remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net. And that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal. And you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormalportal. Or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place, and we're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. Y'all take care, and remember, we love y'all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.